delighted today to be joined by Craig, Sonia and Leanne. This is a bit of content that we've been talking about for a little while and planning for a little while, and it's in regards to well-being and engagement in the workplace. Leanne's very quick to tell us off when we talk about recruitment and retention and tell us that actually the real value is all about engagement. There's no point in just struggling to recruit people and then keep hold of them at the other end of the door. It's about keeping people engaged in the first place. So we're going to go through some really good content today from 3 different speakers, doing a bit of a deep dive into this topic area. Everything will be recorded, so we'll send the recording over afterwards, so you don't need to scribble away and make too many notes if you'd rather focus on listening. Usual housekeeping, I think everyone's used to this by now, so stick your do not disturb on. Use the Q&A to put any questions in. We'll try and leave them to the end, but if there's something that I think needs discussing in the moment, then I'll just give a nudge to the speaker and we'll address it there and then. But pop your questions into the Q&A. We will have a poll coming up soon as well, so keep your eye out for that. And then any general stuff, any general conversations, just pop in the chat. I think everyone knows the drill by now. Craig, if you want to start sharing your screen, if you're going straight into a presentation, then that's fine. And I'll jump off the video and hand over to you.
Well, thanks to those that have joined today and given up their time to find out about how we make great workplaces. This is split into 3 sections. So we're going to talk a little bit about what workplace wellbeing is and what it isn't. Then we're going to look at how we, like with any part of business, you can't manage, monitor and improve your situation until you know where you are. So we'll hear from Leanne from Oblong about how we audit where we are from a workplace wellbeing cultural perspective. And then we'll be hearing from Sonia from Ride the Waves. They'll be talking a little bit about how we, once we know where we are, look to make improvements. So do you want to do a real quick introduction to yourself, Leanne?
Yep. Hi, everybody. My name is Leanne Elliott. I am from Oblong. I'm a business psychologist. And as Paul mentioned, really, I'm employee engagement is the love of my life. That ties in very closely to wellbeing. And I'm really here to help small businesses, owner-led businesses, create awesome workplace cultures where people can thrive and businesses can thrive too.
Brilliant. We're also joined by Sonia from Ride the Waves. Hi, Sonia. Do a quick intro.
Yeah, very quickly. So all things coaching. So professional, personal development, working with organisations to work with their leaders to bring about performance improvement. I'll share with you some information later about the programs we run and also give you a quick takeaway so you can start developing in the moment. So anything coaching, that's what Ride the Wave does all around the world. Thank you, Craig.
Thank you. Thank you, Sonia. And then me. So, Craig, I have been working, as a few of the people in this meeting know, in digital for 23 years. I originally started in training, ran an agency for 10 years. Since then, I've been doing a mixture of consultancy, training, products and project management. However, this is something that's really personally very interesting and something I'm really passionate about, the whole workplace wellbeing. So thank you very much to Paul and Stuart from MAP for allowing us to put this on, because it's something really, really close to my heart. So why are we here? Well, as I'm sure most people are aware, an awful lot has changed. The employment and workplace environment has changed beyond recognition over the last 3 years. It was changing anyway, but the pandemic certainly exacerbated and forced that particular hand. There are loads of good statistics out there about why this is important, and we can find stats every day, all day, to back up the fact that employment has changed, who's in control has changed, and that employees particularly expect more from the workplace. And this is just a great stat from Forbes, that 80% of employees now expect mental health support within the workplace. So we need to create places that people want to work, want to rock up to, want to stay in and want to thrive in. That is now a given. So what is workplace well-being? Well, I can tell you what it's not. It's not a ping pong table and bean bags. A lot of businesses think it's just a physical, environmental element to workplace well-being, but it's a very subjective thing. So if you ask people, they will talk about having purpose and meaning, having a reason to come to work that is not just financial, happiness, harmony, recognition, career progression, reward, whether that is financial or not. And something more fundamental to us is safety, knowing that the workplace is a safe place to come to. And as I mentioned on the very first slide, work is something you do, not somewhere that you go. So if you ask 100 people, you'll probably get 100 different answers to what workplace well-being means to them. It's very difficult to go into all the areas of workplace well-being, but the two things to bear in mind are that people look for different types of reward. So the eudaimonic, which is the purpose, which is why am I here? Why am I doing this? What do I get for my soul when I'm at work? But then there's also the happiness bit, having joy in what you're doing and feeling that what you're doing is making a difference. And it fits nicely into four main areas. Most people talk about workplace well-being and think about wellness, about our physical well-being. Well, wellness impacts on well-being. Well-being covers way more than just our physical well-being. So physiological is part of it. Do we physically feel safe? Do we feel healthy? Our physical health, is that taken care of? And that includes our mental health as well. But psychological, do we feel valued? Do we feel safe? We keep coming back to this safe. An awful lot of people talk about workplace anxiety. Well, anxiety comes from the fact that we don't feel safe. Now, a million years ago, it was our physical well-being that made us anxious, but now our psychological well-being can make us feel anxious in the workplace. And I'll come to the next slide about where that comes in. But psychological, physiological, financial, obviously a big hit for most people is, and it's not just workplace, it's personal finances can have a massive effect on how we feel in the workplace. The two are completely connected. But also societal. Now, the pandemic has changed how we interact with the people we work with, because sometimes, and I've done it, I worked for an organization where 90% of the people I never actually met. There was a lack of society. I did a talk for the BBC last year about how to better integrate people that are working remotely. So we've lost some of the society. We've lost those physical water cooler moments. So what's in it for us? I'll come back to the main one, but easy recruitment. If you have a good workplace wellbeing strategy and a demonstrable culture, it's easy to recruit people. They want to work for you. When they're there, there is less absence. The most common reason for people a few years ago being absent from work was musculoskeletal. Now it's mental health. Improved productivity. It's a given. People will work better. You can keep the people that you already have because they want to stay with you. And we are seeing less people who are taking a leap of faith and moving jobs. They want the security. But the big one is discretionary effort. And this is the goodwill that we get from treating people in a certain way and creating a good culture and good well-being for them. So discretionary effort. There's a good article if you want to read on a phenomenon called social loafing. It's the where people take their foot off the pedal a little bit. They know just about how much they can get away with when they work in groups, and it's really important when you're project managing to understand that the bigger the group, everybody just drops their productivity down that little bit. But discretionary effort should be how we look and value what we're doing from a wellbeing and cultural perspective. Lots of elements to workplace wellbeing, but there's actually a guy called George Casey, who was a former US soldier, who tried to break this down into what areas do all of these elements of wellbeing fall into. And he came up with volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. Now, we haven't got a huge amount of time to go into all of those, but we all know that a volatile situation where there is a lot of uncertainty creates an awful lot of stress. And I know a lot of businesses are chaotic, but you've got to look at how that trickles down to the people that are working there. Complexity. Do people understand what they're doing? Is it too complex for them to understand? And the ambiguity. Now, for me, the ambiguity comes from businesses who talk about a particular culture or a workplace wellbeing philosophy, but then don't implement that. The wellbeing equation, quite simple. This leads very well on to what we're going to talk about with Leanne and Sonia next. But basically, leadership, the environment, that's a physical and emotional environment that is created, and personal resilience. Now, personal resilience is something we'll talk about a little bit later on. But the important part of this is that without the leadership, without the environment, without the personal resilience, any of those three factors are zero, the sum effect is zero. It's A times B times C. Any of those is zero, your result is zero. So it's a little bit like somebody explained it to me, having a house where you put the heating on. If there's one window open in the house, all the heat escapes through that window. You've got to have all of the bases covered, otherwise the net effect is zero. How do we create great leadership? I'm not going to steal the subsequent presenters' thunder on this one, but for me, I've always broken it down into knowing your stuff. So particularly within digital and tech, we tend to promote people who know their technical stuff, which is great. You want people who really are on top of the game for their technical, their area of skill. But you also need to know your staff. So you need to be a good leader and be able to understand how your staff are feeling, how they're responding, where they are physically and mentally. But you've also got to know yourself. So it's a really important thing. You've got to know how you're going to react, how you're going to deal with situations. So I've always said leadership breaks down into knowing your area of expertise, knowing the people that you're working with, and knowing yourself. So how do we approach workplace well-being? This segues very nicely into to Leanne. So you need a strategy, you need a vision. Where do we want to be? What culture and workplace well-being? How do we want people to describe us? How do we want people who work for us to feel when they're there? What is our strategy? Is it to recruit? Is it to retain? But you can't do that without knowing where you are. So like any area of business, you have to baseline and know where you're starting from. And when you do that, then there are certain tactics to improve that situation, which for me is where Sonia comes in, because the most important thing is about leadership. And we'll talk about that later on. You are, from a leadership perspective in your business, only as good as the weakest link, and the weakest link is usually the person that you directly report to. So I'm going to stop my screen share now, and I'm going to hand you over to Leanne from Oblong. Leanne, over to you.
Thank you, Craig. That was such a great introduction to well-being. It's it's lovely to see those familiar things as well. That VUCA world is something that I talk a lot about too. So to pick up from there, as I said, in terms of what Craig said, talking about baselining and what all that means. Let me just share my screen with you. Could everybody see that okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Lovely. So before we dive into engagement, put it in some context. So at Oblong, we like to say that as a business leader, there's only really three things you need to think about when it comes to creating an awesome workplace culture. And that's recruitment, finding the right people, engagement, keeping the right people, and management, empowering the right people. So I will be handing over to my colleague Sonia very shortly to talk to you about management, how to empower the right people. In terms of recruitment, we don't have time to touch on that today, but do know it is the easiest thing to get right. I want to talk to you about engagement, keeping the right people. So engagement is all about creating an environment that enables performance, protects well-being, and maximizes retention. So why am I talking about engagement instead of well-being? Well, well-being is an outcome. Well-being is something that our people experience if they are engaged. It's not always easy for us to influence people's well-being directly because there's lots of different factors that will feed into that, as Craig outlined. But engagement, that's what happens in work. And these are the things that we can influence as leaders. So a quick analogy on employee engagement to why it's important for businesses. Imagine you have a boat and there are 10 people in your rowing boat. We know from the data that about 30% of the workforce are engaged. So these people are on your side, love your business, and are rowing as hard as they can to push your business in the right direction. We also know from the data that 20% of the workforce are actively disengaged. So this means they're rowing against you. They're rowing as hard as they can in the opposite direction to try and sabotage your progress. Now, you probably know who these people are in your business. You can probably think of somebody who thinks, oh, I think they are against me at times. Or you've probably got those people in your business that you see as real champions. The interesting thing is that 50% of our workforces, those other 5 people in the boat, are neither engaged nor disengaged. They're just sat enjoying the view. They're not rowing at all. Employee engagement is about reaching that 50% of the workforce and re-engaging them in our mission and in the purpose of our business. I'm going to share with you very soon the one thing you can do to improve employee engagement. But before I do, a quick poll, if we could, Paul.
Yeah, it's coming up now.
Thank you. So this quick question for you, truth or lie? One of these statements is false. Which one do you think it is? Is it the first one there? 23% of UK workers report their workplace has a plan in place to spot signs of stress and prevent burnout. Is it statement 2, all UK businesses have a legal obligation to assess employee wellbeing at least once every 12 months? Or is it C, 4 in 5 workers use their full holiday entitlement in the past year? So which one of those statements is a lie? Do we have a result, Paul?
Yeah, I'll just end the poll now.
Thank
Can you see it on your side now, Liam?
Ooh, where would I see that, in the chat or?
Maybe not actually. Share results. See it now?
Ah, thank you. Lovely. Okay, so the lie, all UK businesses have a legal obligation to assess wellbeing at least once every 12 months. I am sorry to tell you that that statement is indeed true. All businesses do have a legal obligation to assess stress in the workplace at least every 12 months. The lie was actually C, 4 in 5 workers use their full holiday entitlement in the past year. It's actually only 3 in 5 workers. If you're looking for a quick fix to boost your employee engagement, make sure people take their holiday allowance. It's there for rest and recovery. If our people aren't resting, they don't have the time to recover, their well-being is going to suffer. So a quick fix for you. But yeah, it is B. Don't panic if you're not currently doing this. It's okay. Lots of businesses aren't. It isn't currently being enforced very harshly, but that of course can always change. So please ignore the boringness of my next slide because it is the legal bit and I am kind of obliged to go through this with you. So what you can see here is that UK businesses have a legal obligation to assess employee health from stress at work at least every 12 months. It also legally obligated to report those results and share the results with their team if you have 5 or more employees. I won't go too much more into this, but HSC, these are the people that are enforcing that rule, asking business leaders to do it. They do have an awesome free resource to help you do this, which the link is there. You can go and check it out. And why do people care? Well, they care because it's costing about 5.2 billion to industry, individuals, and the government. It's an expensive problem. Why should you care? Well, putting it into numbers that we might understand, if we think 20% of our workforce is typically disengaged, that basically means that's basically the cost of it. So whatever that salary percentage is, so take your full salary bill, take 20% of that, that's a conservative estimate of how much it's costing your business through disengagement every year. The downside about the HSE, it is free, but the downside is that it doesn't show you, it'll show you what is happening in your business. It won't show you why and how. But before we dig a bit more into that, very quickly in terms of what well-being is within your business. Well-being at work, as Craig said, well-being is a multifaceted topic and there's lots of different facets to it. But in terms of well-being at work, there's 3 tiers. The first is crisis management, and this is probably things that you're doing already, things that are going to be legally obligated. So sick pay, holidays, holiday allowance, it could be return to work policies, it could be things around EAP programs and free counselling. The second tier there is resilient the resilience of the individual. So this can be things like resilience training, time management training, a financial well-being program, that type of thing will help an individual build their coping mechanisms. The third tier, which is what the HSE is asking you to measure, is enhancing the work environment. This is operations. This is stuff you already have in place. It's your job descriptions, it's your job roles, it's your teams, it's your leaders, it's your relationships. All of these things you're already doing. All the HSE is asking you to do is measure how well you're doing these things. You might be wondering there why I've got my little fish. Well, I like to think about well-being at work with this analogy. If we had a fish tank with 1 fish in it and the fish died, we'd probably think, oh, I wonder what was wrong with the fish. We should maybe look into that. If you had a fish tank or a lake with 1,000 fish in it and all the fish died, you're probably going to look at the water. And that's what wellbeing at work is from the HSE perspective. They want you to take a litmus test every 12 months to test the toxicity of your water. So as I mentioned, the HSE is a really great free tool. But while it will tell you what is happening in your business, it may not tell you why and what to do about it. And to do that, we need a predictive model of engagement. And this is a tool that we've designed at Oblong called the RX7. You're going to get all these slides. So don't worry about reading them necessarily. I'm just going to call out the headlines here. So on the left-hand side, they're the foundations of workplace culture. These are the things that from research, from the literature, from psychology, we know these are the 7 things that create an awesome workplace culture. A predictive model of engagement means that we know if these 7 things are in place, they should translate into positive attitudes and behaviours from our teams. Job satisfaction, discretionary effort that Craig mentioned, better ability to embrace change or advocate for your organisation. And if those positive attitudes and behaviours are present, we should also see outcomes within our business in terms of growth, in terms of well-being, and in terms of a killer employer brand. I want to run you very quickly through a case study that we did with a client at Oblong. This was the very first employee insights tool survey that they ever delivered. And this is what sits behind the RX7. It's an employee insights survey. So we ran this survey, and as you can see, you know, it's an average result. We've got some nice greens there in terms of relationships, in terms of role, discretionary effort. We've got a few pinks in the resilience and resources, but overall, you can see in the top right there, we've got an average score, an amber score. That's very typical of any organization's first delving into employee engagement, people and culture. It's usually not as bad as you fear it will be. It usually is that average amber score. What we can do with the RX7 is then make predictions of what will happen if we don't do anything. Again, don't worry too much about these equations. You can pore over these, but just pay attention to me, to the right-hand side for me. These are the challenges you may be experiencing in your business if you are currently struggling with poor employee engagement or well-being. Burnout, quiet quitting, so people just turning up and doing their 9 to 5 and not going above and beyond. Absenteeism, people going off sick, employer brand, trouble attracting talent, and turnover. You know, of course, if people are leaving our business, this is a red flag. What the RX7 can do is it can pinpoint exactly, specifically within your business, why these things are happening. So if you took that top one there in terms of this client, low resources, low levels of resilience in the workforce, yet people were going above and beyond through extra role effort, therefore they're at risk of burnout. So we can reverse engineer these as well and give you the power you need to make investment decisions as to how you're going to improve the culture of your business. We also give clients a scorecard. Again, I won't go through these, but I just want to point out on the left-hand side there, you can see an array of performance metrics. And this is what the RX7 does. It's a performance-driven tool. So we're always going to link the results to performance outcomes that we can track over 6 to 12 months. And that's the bit you care about. So this is our client 12 months on. Very simple recommendations. We tend to start with the recommendations, that low-hanging fruit, quick fixes that can start to really drive change. And it really did drive change in this business. And you can see we've got so much more green on there. We've still got a few amber and a couple of pink, but even our pinks are really starting to nudge in to that amber stage there. In terms of the overall culture temperature, you can see that it is in green, 80%. So a massive, massive change. The cool thing about employee insights as well is that even just asking people how they're thinking, how they're feeling about the business is going to give you a boost in morale and performance. When you follow through on those insights and show people how you've listened to them and how you've actioned their feedback, that's when you really start to see the rewards and the change in your business. This was just in 12 months. So give it another 6-12 months of going after those maybe more complex recommendations or multifaceted recommendations. This business is going to be in the 85 to 90%, without a doubt. But again, what does that actually mean? Why should we care? Well, positive well-being, positive employee engagement, and excellent performance in terms of business can coexist. This client saw a 20% growth above their forecast. They saw a 40% reduction in turnover and a 10% uplift in revenue, amongst other things. And of course, importantly, we saw an 18% increase in well-being. That's awesome for our people. We want our people to be healthy and happy. But that's also the statistics, as Craig said at the beginning there. Forbes has shown us that the people now are looking for businesses that invest in employee well-being. This is gold in terms of crafting your employer brand strategy, your communications. This is what you want to shout about. And if you ever sat in an interview and somebody says to you, tell me, how do you invest in employee well-being? This gives you all the data you need to convince that person not only do you invest in it and you take it seriously, but they should really come and work for your business. My thing with employee insights, why do I care so much about it? Because I'm frustrated when organizations spend money they don't have on interventions they don't need and have no idea if it works or not. Having insights, having this baseline will help you understand where you are right now, where to invest, and importantly, measure the impact of any people and culture interventions you put into your business. Always start by finding out where you are, then invest. Unless there is one exception. If you're going to invest in just one thing that is guaranteed to have a positive impact on your people's well-being and a positive impact on the performance of your business, it is management. And with that, I will hand over to my colleague, Sonia.
Thank you so much, Leanne. Thank you, Craig. So here we are. This is the sort of third piece to the webinar this morning in terms of what is going to be needed to get all of those words that you've been hearing: engagement, motivation, resilience, leadership. So I've been working with leaders for over 20 years around the world, and it's a really tough gig. And for many people, we often used to call it soft skill. I think it's the hardest thing going, to actually be able to lead in the current environment. We talked about VUCA, Craig, you mentioned that. It's volatile, uncertain. There's such a big challenge. So what we wanted to do at Ride the Wave was make it easy and practical and versatile. So we deliver training, accredited programs, professionally accredited programs, to work with leaders or individuals wanting to make a difference. And one of the models and tools that I'm going to bring to you today is the CREST model. It's a very sort of succinct, easy way, and I'd like you to work with me while I go through it and to measure your current point. As Leanne said, let's look at the baseline first, and then I'll give you some ideas and thoughts about how to move it forward. So let me share my slides so we can have a look at it together. Here it is. It is the CREST, a model for leader coaches, because as I said, I've been working with leaders for about 20 years, and I was trying to think, what are now the 5 key areas of focus that all leaders need to be thinking about if they want to get everything that Craig and Leanne were talking about? How do we do it? It's quite daunting often. So there are 5 key areas. I'm going to take you through them. And as I do it, I'd like you to just get a pen and paper out, or digital recording system. And I'd like to mark yourself on a scale of 1 to 10. 10 being I am totally satisfied with the level of activity I'm taking in this area. 1, oh my goodness, haven't even considered this focus area. It's private, it's for you, but it's interesting to see. And the word we say is satisfied, because sometimes you think, I'm satisfied, I'm not doing a lot, but I'm satisfied because right now that's okay. Every organization is different, and we're not prescriptive in telling leaders what to do. We coach them so they can come up and think about what does their organization, their situation, their current challenges uniquely require of them. So do that as I'm going through, scale of 1 to 8, your satisfaction level in each of these areas. Let me tell you about them. There are neatly, Crest, the organization is Ride the Wave. Everything we do has been brought very visually to you around a maritime theme. Of course, we're very creative. So it's about keeping your organizations on the crest of the wave. It's a balancing act. So often we are thinking about the current wave. We are not watching for the wave that is coming. So we know there is no flat sea. In fact, I'm not quite sure what would happen to the world if there were no tides. So the waves are going to keep coming in, and we need to learn how to surf or ride those waves. Let's look at Crest. Let's look at the 5 areas. The first one is clarify, raise, enhance, synchronize, and trust. Let me talk you through them. First one is clarify. So as leaders, we really need to make sure that, and this starts right, as Craig was talking, even before the recruitment, early thinking is actually clarify the goals and destination. So as a leader, are you able to articulate and explain to people, what are you there for? What is the purpose? What's the meaning in all of this? Where do people need to be? Go back to Leanne was talking about the rowing as well. Where are you going to? Where are you rowing towards? Now, I know leaders do not do this well. I know they don't do it well because it's very hard to do, but it can be done very well. So what we've got in our program is we've got a number of sort of coaching tools and frameworks that people can use. I'll share one with you in a moment. But it's really important that anyone in that organization can be as articulate as you, the leader, to be able to say, yeah, absolutely, this is what we need, this is where we're going, and this is what it will look like when we get there, and this is what I need to do to achieve it. So that isn't just about KPIs on a piece of paper. That is much more than that. Why am I doing this? What's it all about? So the first thing is, if I've got a compass, where's my true north? Where am I heading towards? So number 1, just put down in a scale of 1 to 10, how satisfied are you that you've done that as a leader, and that your organization, if I came in and asked anyone, what's it all about? Where are you heading to? They could tell me. Give yourself a score 1 to 10. So number 1, it's the most important one. You cannot do anything. You cannot really manage performance unless you have got a goal and a destination, and it is crucial to engagement. So second one then is, all right, we know where we're going, but you know what? Might not actually be there yet in terms of competence and confidence. So this is about raising the competence and confidence of the team. Both are crucial. We need both. I need to be confident in what I do, and I need to have the skills and resources to be able to do it. That will lead to exceptional performance, and it will mean we can keep riding that wave. Otherwise, we're falling off. It's all very well you telling me we're heading to that island, but if I don't feel I can get there or am able to get there, I'm off. So it's about raising the competence and confidence, and you will know yourself all sorts of levels within a team. So again, mark yourself 1 to 10. 10, fully satisfied, nailed that, thank you. 1, oh my goodness, desperately need to speak to you about this, haven't got a clue what you're talking about, don't know what to do, and so on and so on. I joke. It's a big scale. So that is the second one, raise. The third one is all about enhance. So this is crucial. Now, it's right smack in the middle of this 5-layered model, and it is about enhancing well-being and resilience. So there are very few models that will actually add all of this together. That's why we've got these 5 key focus areas, and leaders so often say to us, thank you for putting that in there. So enhancing well-being and resilience. We know, you've listened to experts in the area, Craig and Leanne have told you, and why we need to do this. Leaders know it's so hard to do. So again, on the programs we run, we talk about how do you do that? One, I suggest you go to find out where you are, first of all, with Leanne and get your audit done. And then we could add on and help leaders really think about, okay, what can I do more of in this area? I've got a little tool for you. I'll just share one. It gives you an idea of the sorts of tools that sit beneath each and every one of these 5 stages. This is your weather report. It's a very simple, I told you it was all Ride the Wave themed and maritime themed. This is a weather report, and it's the sort of thing, just a very small sort of start to a meeting, a check-in with your people to get people talking about emotional granularity. So the more we are able to say how we are feeling and being aware of it, the more likely we are to be more resilient and more able to, you as a leader need to know this stuff. So here we are, a lovely visual. Look at the colors here. We've got weather report, what's going on in your world right now. If you'd like to, please put in chat and tell us 2 scales, energy, and pleasantness of the weather system that's going on for you. So if it's a really, really energetic weather system and it's really, really pleasant, high tides and good vibes are going on in your world right now. Let's just go right down to the bottom. If there's absolutely no energy at all where you are, the environment, and oh my goodness, really did I have to bother coming to work today, and it's not very pleasant at all. You're bobbing aimlessly. The other option is deeply unpleasant, but the energy is huge and I'm really feeling it. I have a shark attack going on, got the teeth have bitten out of that one, red. And then you've got pleasantness is very, very high. Energy is pretty low around here, snoozing on the beach. Oh my goodness, I could spend hours talking to you about why we can't have that. We really need to be working to get all of our team to spend much time as possible up in that sort of top right area. But as leaders, we need to know, hear, and be able to do something about it. And coaching and self-coaching for that is amazing. So anyone brave enough, pop in chat if you can, tell us where you might be. Lovely sort of start and where you want to be. You might say, I feel my head is underwater. I really want, even by the end of the day, just to feel I'm floating. What do I need to do to get there? My leader may need to be able to help me on that. So just an example of the sort of tools we've got, good as me, over 20 in the Leader Coach program. So that was E, enhance. So now we're thinking about synchronizing the team. Again, so rarely done effectively. Look at these beautiful dolphins. Synchronizing the team. This is so crucial. Every single person should at all times have 2 views. The view in terms of what I need to do to individually contribute, and the helicopter view in terms of how do I need to be supporting this team to achieve. Yeah, we know that doesn't happen. We know it doesn't happen, but it has to happen. How can it happen? Well, we've got brilliant tools that leaders can take out to get people to take ownership, take responsibility, accountability, and ownership to really synchronize the team and get them to work together. So we've got some brilliant tools. The ROCKS tool, for example, will give you the 9 common things that get in the way of teams being effective. Together as a team, you're going to work together to smash those rocks out the way, get the gold and the sandy beach, and help everyone think about, okay, what do I need to do to support John over there, for example? What do I need from Mary to support me? How are we going to work together? Crucial. So that's the S in CREST. And the last one is the T, trust in and from others. Oh my goodness, right. As a leader, how are we going to engender an environment where we are trusted? Because at times we have to be deeply unpopular. Hopefully not too deeply, but maybe we will at times. And it's very hard because we're watched all the time. It's easy for us to break trust. And also we need to trust others. So those micromanagers in the room, those who don't like to delegate, those who are a bit perfectionist, gonna have to give up some of that stuff. So we talk about leadership styles. We talk about Goleman's components of trust, beautiful peer, that if you're going to walk out into the horizon on it, there are pillars of trust. Let's go through them, look at them. Goodwill, for example, reciprocity, equity, all sorts of things. We will talk you through and help you think about what you need to do differently. So that is a whiz through CREST. If nothing else, and you haven't, just go through those 5 and really think about, what am I doing in those areas? Am I doing enough? What else might I do? And you might be able to bring out all the activity you are doing in your organization and populate them and see what that looks like. Also perfect once you've worked with Oblong to take and think about, how can we build this into what my audit has told me and the areas we need, which is why Riderwave works with Oblong to bring open programs to organizations and runs open leader coach programs. So you might just have one person you want to send in on it, another organization sends someone, and we'll work with you all together to make sure you get the very best gold service. So I'm not going to go into detail. You'll have it in your slide. What is this leader coach program? There we go. Just some things that are in it. Just all you need to know is it's 2 full days of training. It's accredited by a professional body. You can run it in any which way you want, face-to-face or virtual, 2 full days, 4 half days, and so on. And it also has the gold stamp. You get your individual executive coaching as well. So you get 3 lots of individual executive coaching to follow up from that. All sorts of things. Leanne and myself, very happy to talk to you all about that if it's of interest. I'm sure it will be. And we also have a flagship program. That's a 2-day. We have a 7-day. If any of you want to become executive coaches or professional coaches, just shout. We'd absolute delight to work with you all. Over and out. I've done my time. I'm going to stop sharing, come back to the panel and a wonderful host. Hand over to you, Craig. I think you'd like to add a few notes to what we've covered so far.
Brilliant. I love the branding. I love the whole theme of that, Sonia. It's that's great. Thank you. Right, let me share my screen and start. There we go. So thanks for that, Leanne and Sonia. What I'm noticing, we're all using the same words, we're all talking the same language, which is nice. It's nice to see that kind of continuity between us. What I wanted to talk about is getting the right people into the business. Something that I've noticed is a lot of businesses are very much focused on skills, which is great. You need to be able to tick the box for technical skills and technical ability. But it's important to get people into the business that can actually shape your culture, not just adapt or adopt your culture. So I think it's really important. Think about the way that a lot of the investors, and think about Dragon's Den, a lot of the dragons in the Dragon's Den, they buy the people as much as the idea. So when you're recruiting, a lot of businesses do it, but still a lot don't. Look at the personal attributes of the people more than just their technical skills, their technical knowledge. So how is culture related to recruitment? Well, quite simply, you get the right culture, you get the right workplace wellbeing environment. It makes recruitment cheaper because you are recruiting fewer people, because you are retaining more of them. And there are loads of great stats out there, like Gallup saying how many people now cites work-life balance as very important in their next job. Yes, people still want a financial reward, but certainly over the last 3 years, it's exacerbated the number of people who are looking for a good work-life balance. And Deloitte saying that, as a basic standard, businesses ought to be discussing mental health and workplace wellbeing and culture at all parts of the recruitment process. So how do we communicate culture during recruitment? Being honest, the language that we use. I always say, talk about culture and workplace wellbeing in job adverts, on the website. When if a business has a recruitment portal, talk about it. Internal communications, how people talk to each other during the different stages of recruitment. The personal interaction. So make sure the person that's doing the interviewing knows the values, communicates those values. I think employers have to now see recruitment as more of a sales process. The days of thinking that you're totally in control and that employees, potential employees, ought to be selling to you. I think it's now far more equal. Look at it as a sales opportunity, and train the person who is doing the interviewing. I'll hold my hand up. I still find interviewing hard work. It takes a lot of skill, and I take my hat off to people that do really good recruitment. And I've been in some situations where the person interviewing is literally looking at a tick list of your skills and technical ability and is not a great interviewer. So train your interviewers and create a good workplace environment for people to come into an interview for. Genuinely, a good few years ago, I was left waiting at a business for an hour without anybody acknowledging it, and I walked out. Be on time. It's the first opportunity you've got to show your potential employees that you care. And being late and not offering them a drink and not acknowledging and apologizing for being late is not a great first first view for a potential employee. So let's look at some of the practical steps that we can do to convey, and these are things that we try and encourage our clients to do as part of the interview process. Mix it up a little bit. Do some videos on the website, on the recruitment portal. Show the people that are going to be interviewing. Show the people that you're going to be working with. One of the things I'm always surprised about is that with a lot of job specifications, the first thing is what the employer expects from you. I would swap it around and say this is first and foremost be what the employer is offering to an employee, then what they expect in return. Again, you wouldn't do a sales proposition where you talked about how much money you want from the client before you told them what the features, advantages, and benefits of your particular product. So think of recruitment as a product. Make the interview location safe and welcoming. I've been to some interviews in the past where the environment is not conducive to people relaxing and giving their best self. Talk about non-monetary benefits as well as just a simple monetary package. Also, a bit of a bugbear of mine: reduce stages and tasks. So don't have multiple stages for an interview if you can help it. Try and shorten that down. It does ask for a huge amount of commitment. And I know there may be employees thinking that, well, we want to see what the commitment is. But I do sometimes feel when we have 3 and 4 stage interviews, it's a little bit unnecessary. So the other one is tasks as well. Be careful when you're asking people to conduct tasks as part of an interview. We were recruiting for a very senior .NET developer, and the client wanted to send them a code test, and we actually pointed out that might be a little bit insulting to somebody that's been doing .NET for 15 or 20 years to ask them to prove that they know what .NET was. So just have a think about when what you're asking at the interview stage. We try to encourage people to adopt a flexible first approach. I did have a discussion a few weeks ago with somebody that was saying that he didn't think that his business ought to be flexible and people ought to come into work. And I pointed out there's a legal obligation to be flexible. We can't expect all businesses to want to work fully remote, but I think now we've proved that being flexible works for most people. It will also bring in people to the workplace that traditionally may not have been able to. So people with accessibility issues, people with childcare issues, caring issues. We always try to get employers, our clients to look at a flexible first approach. I've already mentioned train interviewers. There's nothing worse than a cringeworthy interview where you know the person that's interviewing you is just as nervous as you are. Share the values. So talk about the values in the interview. Be ready. I've already mentioned, make sure that when you're doing an interview, it's your first opportunity to sell your business, your culture, the fact that you care to a potential employee. Be on time, be prepared, be ready, and be honest. It's a new phenomenon that we call ghosting. I used to call it ignoring people. I know it's not practical to respond to every single person who applies for a job, but employees and employers both need to be honest with each other. And I think with employees, the feedback we get is even if it's a no, if it's communicated, at least people know. So that honesty, again, is another opportunity to sell your core values of your business. Right. What do we do? Well, I have been a digital project manager for a long time. So the reason why I've got into recruitment is because I'm now looking at being able to better understand what creative and digital and tech agencies want, because I've been on the other side of recruitment. So we screen in a lot more detail the people that we put forward, because I know their job. We also offer some training. So for early tech careers candidates, We do some initial training with them to help them be better placed and better able to join the workforce and to contribute profitably. We support them for up to 6 months. So we offer a 6-month replacement because we are mentoring those people. We keep in touch with them. We do further training. So if there are any problems, we can deal with those and offer that 6-month replacement. And that just means better retention for everybody. So that's our approach to recruitment. I've spoken to Sonia and Leanne because I think between the three of us, we can offer a really great package to find the right people, identify what businesses need, not just practically and technically with skills, but also the culture. And we have the leadership training to move those people on as well. So at that point, I am going to stop my screen share. I'm going to say thank you very much to everybody who has joined and listened. Everybody else is now back in the room. So I think now is when we want to throw the floor open to questions. So Paul, Leanne, Sonia and I welcome anybody's feedback and questions.
Thanks, guys. Really good. I can't believe how much value and content we packed into like 50 minutes. So it's just incredible. Just picking up on a couple of things that you said, particularly towards the end there, Craig, is you started talking about through the investor's eye. And we've had a number of clients go through the sales process and go through the due diligence process in the last couple of years. And it's been very noticeable, the increase in requests in regards to everything around this subject area. So, in the past, it might have been a run of the salaries over the last 3 years and who's worked in the business and the contracts for employment, salaries, basic things. But now we're seeing that section of the due diligence, as you say, from buyers putting a lot of value on what are your employees saying? So what engagement surveys have you done? What signs of stress, fatigue have there been? Sickness has there been? Wanting to see things like, average tenure and longevity, appraisal notes, and making sure that appraisals have been kept, and obviously churn rates. So everything, that we think about day to day, investors are worried about day to day. Investors are really looking at it more sharply than ever before, I think. As you rightly put, it's very much an employees market. And this is something that, is strategically important. It's important selling your business as well as tactically. We all get stressed and worked up about it operationally. It's something that there's a lot of value in, I think, zooming out and looking at the things that you've all shared today. And obviously, it can be easy as a small business owner. You're just jumping from one thing to the next. Is that if no one's leaving at the moment, if you're not got a retention issue, you don't pay attention to it. But as Leanne will passionately say, that's too late. It's about checking the engagement levels at an early stage. And we all like to think we've got good culture, but there'll always be things that we can do to improve, and surprises as well. We've done the survey twice with Leanne, about to do it a third time with our team. There are things, sometimes the things that you're worried about, your team respond like, oh yeah, that's not a problem to us. We're happy with that. And there's something else that comes out as a curveball surprise from those engagement surveys. And the other thing that stood out for me with the work that we did with Leanne, we got into the whole pulse surveys that lots of businesses do. They're great, but the danger with them is that they're reacting to how people feel in the moment. Whereas we now tend to focus on longer form surveys less frequently, so that people can actually take the time to sit and think about how they feel overall rather than just in the moment. That was a big takeaway for me as well.
Thanks. Are there more questions come up in the chat, Paul? Or?
I don't think so. No, I don't think so. Great. Well, good for timing anyway. I assume, have you got all the slides, Craig? Or if each of you send them over to me, I'll share them out with the community. Just make sure your contact details are in there so that people know how to follow up.
Yeah. No, well, thank you for Leanne and for Sonia joining. I think between the three of us, we can create a nice package of support for businesses and for my point of view, it's important that we change the way that we feel like we are selling our businesses to candidates. That slide I mentioned about proving to people that we care right from the start is really important, and putting these things in places from all three of us really shows that we are investing in people. So
Great.
thanks very
Super.
much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you for the opportunity, Paul. Thanks very much.
Yeah,
problem.
thank you so much for having us.
No problem. Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Bye
Bye-bye.
now. Bye.